Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode on Eat Sleep Reef. We got a very cool episode for you guys. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. Before we do jump in, for you guys that aren't aware, I'm going to urge you guys to head over to reeftees.com. For you guys that don't know, that's one of my companies. We sell shirts, pretty much cool apparel here for all us reefers. Recently we released clownfishology posters, guys. These are posters pretty much with every clown, not every clownfish, but most clownfish we've come to know here in the hobby. These posters, guys, there's only going to be 150 of them ever made. Once they're sold out, they're gone. We launched them on Thursday. Believe it or not, we have over 60 orders already in, so we don't have a lot of posters left. Last thing I'd want is for you guys to miss your chance. So again, be sure to head over to reeftees.com. Very briefly here, talking about the calcium reactor. So for you guys know, I've been running the calcium reactor. I want to say now it's 2.5 weeks, almost going on 3 weeks. And guys, it's been beautiful. It's been smooth, pretty much hands off. Believe it or not, and I know I've mentioned this, it's so much easier than 2-part dosing. You know, with individual dosers. I mean, I'm absolutely sold on this. I'm just so happy to share my experiences with you guys. I think I'm going to do an update video probably after a month, the 1 month mark. We're not too far away from that, just because I want to be sure I got, you know, I'm able to bring value over to you guys and give you guys some pointers. So I've been dosing, you guys can see 5 milliliters a minute. That's been holding pretty steady, about an 8.6, 8.7 alkalinity, so I'm very happy with that. Obviously I'm going to be keeping you guys updated when I do the full kind of 1 month after mark on the calcium reactor, so stay tuned for that. I don't know if you guys recall, but a few videos ago, I want to say about 4 or 5 videos ago, I was fragging Montipora. It's kind of you can look back on it, it kind of shows how to frag Montipora. And I don't know if you guys remember there, but I was going to keep you guys updated on how quick I would get the growth back on the Monty. Believe it or not, guys, after about I think it's been about 3 weeks, as you guys can see, we already have close to a 1/4 inch of growth. Now, this is great. I'm very happy to see it. I don't know if it has to do with the calcium reactor at all. I think more than anything, it has to do with the stability in my tank. I've generally always had good luck with Montipora, but you guys can see it's close to a 1/4 inch of growth, so it's very cool to see the progress on this Monty cap. So jumping right into it, because again, guys, we don't have a lot of time here to cover, and obviously I don't want to blabber on and on about maintaining acans. So jumping in, acans is a great starter coral. I think it's a great coral for someone starting with a brand new reef. Obviously don't put, make sure you cycle your tank, so on and so forth, but it's a great beginner coral. They're very inexpensive. They got great color to them. So starting out, let's talk about the feeding regimen with the coral. As far as this coral is concerned, you don't need to feed it per se, but it does benefit if you spot feed it dramatically. Not only in growth, in color, but it just becomes a lot more fluffy, happier coral if you do spot feed it. I personally use Reefroids and Rod's Food. Again, I spot feed them about twice a week, and like I said, you can expect great growth, great coloration from that, feeding them often. Another thing is going to be placement. Now with placement, kind of / lighting, you want to place them low in your reef. One thing I have found with acans, I'm sure a lot of you guys that have kept and can relate, if you put too much light on them, they won't necessarily bleach. A lot of them will actually thrive, but you're going to notice the colors don't become as deep anymore. It'll lose coloration, which is very interesting. It's quite opposite to a lot of the corals we're used to. But being a soft coral, it doesn't like high light. Although it will continue to grow and continue to be fluffy, you won't notice the colors as deep. So generally speaking, try to put these very low in your rockscape if you can, kind of to where the sand meets the rock itself, or just in a place that doesn't get too much light, because that'll ultimately allow you to get better color rendition on it. You won't lose the color from when you got it from your LFS. Again, it's not necessary. You can put them in higher light. Just don't be surprised if they do lose a little bit of the coloration. As far as flow is concerned, When it comes to flow, again, it likes very little flow, but variated little flow. So you don't want to put in a dead spot, because these corals do feed quite aggressively. So they do have their feeding tentacles out, and kind of the only way for them to catch stuff is obviously if it's sweeping by. So you don't want flow that's stagnant. You don't want a dead spot. You want to put them in a low flow area, but with variation of flow. They can handle a little bit medium flow, but they generally don't do too good. And medium is what I have seen. So kind of save it for your low flow areas, low light, and you'll be pretty much good to go. One great thing about acans is they're not very aggressive corals at all. So if you do have them near other corals, most probably you're going to have the other coral, if it is more aggressive than the acan, kill the acan. An acan pretty much will only bring out its feeding tentacles and doesn't really sting much of the surrounding coral. One thing that you guys have seen that I've done in my zoa garden is I actually plant them in between zoas, just because it adds a different texture. I haven't seen any issues. I haven't seen any fighting from neither of them. So if you do think of mixing them, it's a great idea. Adds great texture in your reef tank. I think overall you're going to be very happy with it. But like I said, generally speaking, you don't got to worry about sweeper tentacles, nothing like that. They're very easy, very straightforward, and again, they're not very aggressive at all. Now, some other pointers I like to, what I've covered right now is kind of the care tips that I've found keeping them personally. One very cool and important thing, guys, that I've actually found out while keeping acans in my system, I use them for something that's very interesting. I think you guys are going to be surprised. I think a lot of you that have kept them for a while, you kind of know where I'm going to end up going with it. But in our reef tanks, there are certain corals that tell you what certain parameters are doing. And kind of to elaborate more on that, the acans are actually a great coral to tell you what your phosphates are doing. And you're probably saying, so how the heck does that happen? Believe it or not, guys, in my reef tank, I can go off what my phosphate readings are just by looking at my acans. Believe it or not. So generally speaking, one thing I noticed with my acans, whenever my phosphates are under 0.05, 0.02 to 0.05, you're going to, or at least me specifically, I'm going to notice the acan very big, very fluffy, very happy, good coloration, but overall the dead giveaway is kind of that they're big and they're fluffy, and they just look very plump and pleasant. As soon as my phosphates jump above 0.01 to 0.1 is immediately when you're going to see this. You're going to see them really pissed off, really shriveled up. Like, yeah, you may see a colony here and there look, puffy, but generally speaking, you're going to see them really retracted, just not themselves. And guys, believe it or not, this is how I sometimes test my phosphates. All I do, I kid you not, is I look at my acan garden. That tells me generally where my phosphates are. So if you do have acans and you're having issues with them, try to test your phosphates. That is typically a dead giveaway. If you do have acans and you're again having issues, try feeding them a little bit more. I notice when they are a little bit stressed or just not too happy, feeding them, much like scolies, they tend to get very happy a lot sooner. And again, if you do have them in a highlight area, try toning that down a little bit, or just moving them to another part of the reef. So it's very interesting. I think the phosphate thing that I found out over reefing, I'm sure some of you can relate to that. There's also other corals, and there's a whole list of them that'll tell you, if a certain parameter is out of whack. They're a lot quicker to react than certain corals. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's what I found in my reef tank. Again, guys, I'm not saying, I never test my phosphates. I just, all I'm trying to say is sometimes I use these acans to kind of tell me what these levels are. So all in all, guys, I think the biggest takeaway, if you are a new reefer and you're planning to do acans, by all means, go out and try them out. They're very simple. As long as you have stable parameters, Again, and you at least feed them once a week to once every other week, spot feed them. Again, you don't have to, but if you do, you're gonna notice a lot better results. Again, they're gonna be bigger, happier, more colorful. And again, guys, pretty much keeping the phosphates low, keep everything stable, and you should have great luck with them. Let me know down below, guys, your experiences with acans. I'd love to hear and see how your experience has been. Or maybe you can give us some tips on how to better maintain them, or something you've had great luck with. So I love to hear that. I always love reading all the comments, guys. Thank you very much for watching this episode on kind of how to keep acans, or successfully keep acans in a reef tank. Thank you very much for watching, guys. As always, till next time.